Hey guys, happy Monday. So I am back with chapters 43 and 44. They're both short chapters, so I figured we would just go ahead and do both. And the last time we read The War That Saved My Life, Jamie and Ada were back with Ma'am, and they are now back at the apartment. Ma'am told Ada that she wouldn't be walking any longer. They were throwing out her crutches, throwing out her nice clothing, and pretty much going back to square one to where she was. So let's see what happens. Chapter 43. In the morning, Jamie had wet the bed. I'd half expected it, but Ma'am, sleeping on the other side of Jamie, was furious. She smacked his bottom hard and told him it better not happen again. Else you'll sleep on the floor, she said. Jamie sobbed. He wasn't used to being smacked anymore. Quit crying, I whispered, my arms around him. You've got to. Crying makes it worse. To Ma'am, I said, I'll wash the blanket. I reached to the floor for my crutches and my shoes. They were gone. Ma'am saw the look on my face. She laughed. Missing your crutches, are you? Why didn't you get me crutches when I was younger? I asked. Ma'am snorted. I told you, she said. I don't want you going anywhere. I don't want anyone to see you. But my foot could have been fixed when I was a baby. Oh, so now you believe all that too? That's what they said. Those nurses wanted me to spend money, wanted to take my baby and my money and put you in a hospital for months. All my money, and nobody was going to tell me what to do with my money and my kid. Wouldn't have worked anyhow. When you was a baby, your foot wasn't half as ugly as it is now. I tried to absorb all this, but Jamie had thought of something else. What about when the bombs come? He asked. Where'll we go then? At home we had a shelter. He stopped, his eyes widening with fear. I understood. It was a mistake to call Susan's house home. But Ma'am didn't notice. She just snorted. Ain't no bombs in London, she said. Haven't been, not once, and the war's been on a year. It was a Saturday, but Ma'am said she'd been working that night. The factories ran around the clock. She dozed on the dry side of the bed while I toasted bread for breakfast and made tea. When she woke, she and Jamie went out to buy food. Where's your ration cards? Ma'am asked. Susan had them. She would have given them to us if Ma'am hadn't been in such an all-fired hurry to leave. I played dumb. Don't know, I said. Jamie started to speak, but I glared at him, and he closed his mouth on his words. Ma'am swore. That idiot woman, she said, probably trying to cheat me, probably using all your coupons up right now, buying all the sugar and meat she can. I said nothing. I went to the window, sat down on the chair, looked out. Nothing to see. No children playing in the streets, sandbags up to the windows of the few shops, women walking briskly, not sitting down on the stoops to gossip. War. Ma'am gave me a more congenial look. You can't help it, she said, but with a foot like that, there's nothing useful you can do. You'll be a cripple all your life. When they left, I became a spy. The flat was filthy, and I wanted to clean it, at the very least the sink and the floor, but I decided not to. Ma'am would notice and be angry. Better she thought I stayed in my chair. There weren't many places to hide things. A few kitchen cupboards with the pots and plates Ma'am had had for years. Clothes in the wardrobe, new clothes for Ma'am, and some older things too. A small table in the bedroom with a large new mirror hung in front of it. My hair looked a mess. I brushed it with Ma'am's hairbrush and plaited it neatly. My face was dirty, so I found a cloth and soap at the kitchen sink and washed. I had to use the bucket again, but I moved it to the door and covered it with a plate to keep down the smell. Back to the table with the mirror. It had a drawer. The front of the drawer was a mess of bobby pins, pencil stubs, and odd scraps of paper. I pulled it all the way out. At the very back, I found a small pasteboard box. Inside, a stack of papers. I unfolded the top one. Certificate of birth, it said, Ada Maria Smith. I drew a deep breath, scanned the paper quickly, found what I was looking for. May 13th, 1929. We'd gotten my birthday wrong, of course, but we'd guessed right on the year. I really was 11. Jamie's birth certificate was beneath mine. Beneath that, my parents' marriage certificate. I heard a loud noise on the stairs. Jamie singing at the top of his lungs. Beautiful, beautiful Jamie. By the time Ma'am swung the door open, I had the papers back where they belonged, and I was sitting placidly in my chair. For dinner, Ma'am boiled potatoes and cabbage with a small piece of tough beef. She ate the beef herself because, she said, until we had our ration books back, we didn't have the right to eat meat. I'll get that cat to send them, she said, get the law on her if I have to. Jamie looked miserable and didn't want to eat, but I piled his plate with vegetables. They're good, I said encouragingly. They tasted a little like the beef. He eyed me. I winked. He stared at me for a while, then carefully ate everything on his plate. When Ma'am got up to leave for work, I took a deep breath. It was time. Now or never, I thought. You don't need us here, I said. You're better off without having to take care of us, feed us, and everything. You really don't want us, not even Jamie. Jamie started to say something, but I kicked him hard underneath the table, and he shut his mouth. Mam eyed me. What's all this? Some kind of trick? You never wanted us, I said. Not really. That's why you didn't send for us when all the other mothers did. Don't know what right you've got to complain about it, she said. You had a pretty high time out there for all I can see. Fancy clothes, fancy ideas, prancing around the town. It's nothing to you what happens to us, I said. You only brought us back because you thought it would cost more money to keep us away. And so it would have, Mam said. You saw that letter. What should I pay for you to live better than me? When you're nothing but a, it doesn't matter, I said. I worked hard to keep my voice quiet and even. I was going to have the truth said plainly. I was done with lies. 19 shillings, Mam said. 19 shillings a week, when they first let you go away for free. You never cost me no 19 shillings a week. It's robbery, that's what it is. If you don't have to pay, you won't have to care if we leave. You won't care if we leave, I said. I can arrange that. We'll go away and you won't have to pay for anything. Her eyes narrowed. I don't know what you're up to, girl. I don't know where you got all these words. Talk and talk. I could get my foot fixed, I said, even now. I don't have to be a cripple. You don't have to be ashamed of me. A thought went through my head. Susan isn't ashamed. Mam's face turned red. I'm never paying to fix your foot. It would have been easy to fix when I was a baby. Oh, that's lies. You can't believe what people say. Lies. I told your father. My father. I'd read about him in the newspaper clipping in Mam's drawer. I said slowly, he would have fixed me. It was a guess. He wanted to, Mam said. He was the one that wanted babies. It was him always rocking you, singing to you. I felt tears dripping down my cheeks. I hadn't even realized I was crying. I said, you never wanted us. You don't want us now. Mam's eyes blazed. She said, you're right, I don't. You never wanted us, I said. And why should I, Mam said. It was all him, calling me unnatural, wanting babies all the time. Then I got stuck with a cripple, and then a baby, and then no husband. I never wanted either of you. Jamie made a little noise. I knew he was crying, but I couldn't look at him yet. I said, so you don't need to keep us now. You won't have to pay. We'll be gone in the morning. We'll be gone for good. Mam got up. She took her purse and hat. She turned back to look at me. I can get rid of you without paying anything? I nodded. She grinned. It was her stuffing Ada into the cabinet grin. Is that a promise? She said. All of my life I would remember those words. I said, yes. Chapter 44. I held Jamie and we cried and cried. His tears wet the front of my shirt and my snot got into his hair. We cried like I'd never cried before. It hurt so badly. The ache in my heart was worse than my foot had ever been. When we stopped crying, I held him in my arms and rocked him back and forth. At last he looked up at me, his lashes still fringed with tears. He said, I want to go home. We are, I promised him. As soon as the sun's up, we're going. I could read street signs now. I could find my way. I didn't have any money for a street fare or for a train fare, but I was willing to bet there would be a WVS post somewhere. The WVS woman could help us out. I got out the birth certificates and showed Jamie his. You were born on November 29th, 1933, I told him. You are 7 years old. I showed him the marriage certificate, too. Our father's name was James, just like yours. And I took out the last piece of paper, a newspaper article. Accident at Royal Albert Dock kills 6. He died when you were a tiny baby, when I just turned 4. I put the marriage certificate and the newspaper clipping back in the drawer, but stuffed the birth certificates into my jodhpur pocket, ready for the morning. Whoop, 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 whoop. The sound came from the open window, louder and louder. An air raid. I didn't know where the shelter was. I didn't have crutches. I hadn't walked far on my bad foot for a long, long time. Jamie grabbed my hand in panic. The siren's wail grew louder. Come on, I said. Where? I pretended I knew. Down the stairs. People were hurrying out the flats, rushing down the bedding in their arms. I couldn't slide down the stairs, not in the crowd, so I clutched the rail with both hands and went as fast as I could while people pushed past me. Jamie held onto my shirt, trembling. The siren began to wind down, its noise replaced by far-off blasts. Bombs. Out in the dark street, I couldn't see where to go. I could hear people, but they seemed to be moving in all directions. Shouts echoed between the buildings. I grabbed Jamie's hand and turned at random, moving as fast as I could. An open doorway, a stair going down, anything. A bomb exploded overhead. The streets rang with the sound of shattering glass. Far in front of us, toward the docks, the sky began to glow red. Fire. The docks were on fire. A building behind us exploded. The shockwave threw us into the street. My ears felt like they'd exploded too. Bricks rained down and pieces of glass and rubble. I put my arms over Jamie's head. He looked like he was screaming, but I couldn't hear him. I couldn't hear anything. I scrambled to my feet, pushing him with me. There in front of us was an open door. Steps leading down. A shelter. Thank God. Strangers hauled us inside, down the stairs to a basement room full of people, hot and damp. Concerned faces, lips moving, saying things I couldn't hear, hands holding us up, cradling us, offering us tea, wiping blood from Jamie's face, wiping my face as well. People made room for us on the concrete floor. Someone wrapped a blanket around us. I hung on to Jamie. I thought I would never let go of him, I thought. Never. Okay, so that was the end of chapters 43 and 44. We have 2 more chapters until we're done with the book, so we're really close. I hope you've enjoyed this book. I wish we could read it together in class, but it is what it is. So I'll see you guys next time for the last 2 chapters, and we'll see what happens with Ada and Jamie and where they end up. Bye!